Hello, everybody, and happy Friday.
Happy
It
Friday.
it is that time. It's 4 p.m. Central, which means it's time for the back catalog listening party where we invite different guest artists on to have a little musical happy hour with us and revisit old records. And I'm so excited for today's show with Ana Egge. My name is Mother Banjo, one of your hosts.
I'm the other co-host, Anthony Ihrig.
And of course, Ana Egge joining us from her home in Brooklyn, right?
Yeah, hi. Yeah.
Welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
And
Yeah.
I would love to know what y'all are drinking. It sounds like Alan, our friend from Dallas, is says the snow is finally melting. We've been thinking of you all in Texas,
I
and I'm
was. I was.
glad.
I was hoping you had enough tonic, Ellen. I hope.
Yeah, I know. And it sounds like he's celebrating with a velvet hammer. All right.
Mm.
And Connie, and let's see, Alinda and Bevan from Connecticut, and Chris from Minnesota.
Ooh, glorious sunshine.
I
And it is
know.
here in the Twin Cities, so that's awesome.
It's really nice.
Yeah.
And I don't know, what's the weather like for you in New York today, Anna?
It's been nice. It's drifting snow. It's pretty,
Nice.
actually. Yeah. Warmer than
One
it's been, like 30, 34, something like that.
Oh,
nice.
oh
And how
man.
are
Yeah.
you celebrating with your Friday? What are you drinking over there?
I just put a chicken in the oven and I'm having coffee because we're staying
Excellent.
up late to see a Patti Smith concert tonight.
Oh,
Nice.
nice.
So I won't
Rock and
be
roll.
awake. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I know these days pre-gaming is like, how can I stay awake past 10 p.m.?
Yeah.
Got to plan accordingly.
And my daughter gets us up at 6 in the morning, so hello. No matter
Hello.
what. We have Friday.
Exactly.
We're like February break here. I don't know about y'all, but it's no school
Oh.
this week.
Nice.
Ah.
Yeah.
Well, Tony, I don't know. I don't think the Minneapolis schools have any time off this week, so you've probably been busy with Zoom school. But how are you celebrating your Friday?
I'm so well. We had 2 day. We had President's Day and
Oh,
also
right.
Conference Day. So it was a 3 day week. It felt like the full 5 days. So
Yeah.
I am celebrating with a Lagunitas IPA,
Nice.
Petaluma, California, and Chicago, Illinois. One of my favorite IPAs.
Nice,
How about
nice,
yourself,
nice.
Ellen?
I have made myself a hot toddy, a Canadian hot toddy, because it has maple syrup instead of honey. So, and I know you have some
Oh,
Canadian roots, right, Anna?
I
So,
was born there, yeah. Born in
all right.
excellent.
Saskatchewan.
Well, cheers. And
Cheers,
cheers to all
Cheers.
of
everybody.
you out there listening. Feel free to jump in the comments. Half the fun of this is interacting with, with you guys, real people in real time.
That's right. Well, Anna, we'd love to start by asking you a little bit about your background. As you said, you were born in Canada. You don't have to give us your whole life story, but maybe a little snapshot of what brought you to music and where you came from and what led up to this record we're going to talk about today.
What brought me to music? I think I always, I loved music from when I was young and would scribble on my parents' cassettes that I particularly enjoyed. And I'm hard of hearing, and I was drawn to that kind of. I mean, I think I've always been a little bit of a private, kind of quiet person, and I liked what music did to support that space, in expanding it, but it's also very personal, that intimacy of music, and I felt so much comfort and support and excitement in music from when I was young. And then songwriting, at some point when I was a teenager, someone tipped me off to the fact that, that song you're listening to didn't always exist. Someone wrote it. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
God.
Oh,
And, and then Leonard Cohen was my best friend through my angsty teenage years. Perhaps that's the
a good
beginning of
companion, I'd say.
the content for, spiritual leaning, kind of passionate, somewhere in between, the sensual and God, I don't know, and the dark, sad stuff. That's my bag. And the rest is history, I guess. I just was drawn to musicians and really fell in love with playing the guitar, fell in love with playing the mandolin, and really wanted to be a songwriter and started just doing it without knowing it was supposed to be hard. Then the writing kind of the freak out about writing happened in my 20s when I realized it was supposed to be hard.
So, how many, the record we're going to talk about came out in 2004. How many did you do? Like, where does this land in, like, how many records came out before this one?
Let's see, I did River Under the Road with Asleep at the Wheel. Then I did a live record called Mile Marker. And then I did one in England with this guy Martin Terefe, who's a Swedish producer, called 101 Sundays. And then this one. So this was number 4.
Nice. And this is okay. You mentioned being born in Canada, but somehow you made your way to New York. Was this an album that is got Midwestern roots, or is this a New York roots album?
Well, it's very Canadian, actually.
Oh, wow. All right.
I was on my first tour ever in '97, supporting the River Under the Road record. The River Under the Road song was a co-write with Sarah Brown and Jimmy Dale Gilmore. And Jimmy Dale took me out on tour, national tour, coast to coast in '98. And we had an opener one night in San Francisco, and it was Ron Sexsmith.
Oh, wow.
And I just couldn't, just was blown away by his songs. I loved it so much. And then through me talking about how great he was in all the interviews I did with press, his manager contacted me saying, "Who are you? You're like Ron Sexsmith." So then I started doing some shows with Ron. And then fast forward a few years, I went to a Sacred Steel show in New Orleans. And a man stood up in front of me with a Ron Sexsmith shirt on. And I said, "I know Ron Sexsmith." And he said, "So do I. I play with him." I said, "So do I sometimes." And it was
cool.
Jason Mercer from Toronto who produced this record with me.
Oh, no way.
Wow.
And then I became friends with him and his wife Martha. And fast forward a few years, I moved to New York. And they had moved to New York. And they were, a couple of the only people I knew that lived here. So I reached out to Jason. And then we eventually end up working on this record, Out Past the Lights, together. Yeah, that's Jason.
Yeah, so I got a shot of him here. And he was just at that Sacred Steel show?
Yeah, he was playing, actually it was Jazz Fest, and he was
nice.
playing with Ani DeFranco.
Oh, cool.
But we were both at the Sacred Steel show, and now I can't remember which musician it was who we were seeing play. Maybe it was a couple of them from that cassette that had just come out. Yeah, so through Jason, and I also knew Don Kerr, who plays still with Ron, drummer. So Don plays on this record, Jason, and then his friend Chris Brown, who's Canadian, who was living in the same building as Jason here in Brooklyn, also plays all over it. Tim Bovacanti plays some steel and pedal steel on it. Lots of Canadians.
Wow, cool.
Yeah.
And was it recorded in New York or was it recorded in Canada?
It was mostly, so Jason and I started playing a bunch together, and I said, "I have a bunch of these songs and I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them." And he said, "Well, I just got some recording equipment and I want to start trying to figure this stuff out." This is hilarious actually, he was on tour with Ron and they were opening for Coldplay. And Jason had become friends with, I think his name's Guy, the bass player for Coldplay. And Coldplay had some endorsement with Pro Tools and Mac. And he had received 2 home, recording systems. And Jason was like, "Oh yeah, I'm trying to learn this stuff." And Guy's like, "Oh, I'll send you. I got 2 of them." And so Jason was like, "Yeah, sure, that's so nice, But then it arrived at his apartment.
Whoa.
And he's like, "I have all this stuff."
That's so cool.
So we
Let's make
made
a
it in
record.
his kitchen, yeah, in this tiny
Wow.
little apartment in Brooklyn. Yeah. But some of it was recorded in Toronto. Some of the overdubs were done in Toronto, and then we mixed it at Don's studio when he had a studio out on the island, Toronto Island. it was really beautiful and cold. So it's kind of
Wonderful.
both
Well,
American
I
Canadian.
I love that. It's kind of like a representation of you. It's like Canadian American, the record, and we have a bunch of songs to get to, so I want to make sure we start to hear some music because I know folks are
Yeah.
antsy for that. So the first track we're going to that you picked to feature from the record is Apple Tree, one of my favorites. Is there anything that you want to say about it before we dive in?
We can no. Let's listen.
All
Sounds
right.
good.
That sounds good. We'll get the cool album art, which I'm looking forward to talking about up here, and we'll give it a listen. This is Ana Egge, Apple Tree on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
I take all the time I need, and I don't worry where I'm gonna sleep. 'Cause all the maps of the world are bound to take me where I wanna be. When I need to get away, I travel in my sleep. And when I reach the apple tree, they'll fall around my feet. Well, the cards have all been dealt, and I'm one of the jokers casting spells. I know sometimes I give you hell, but I only wish you well. When I need to get away, I travel in my sleep. When I reach the apple tree, they fall around my feet. When I need to get away, I travel in my sleep. When I reach the apple tree, they fall around my feet. Why must I draw a line? It's a slow fade from day to night. Without sin, without lies, I wonder what this life would be like. When I need to get away, I travel in my sleep. When I reach the apple tree, I fall around my feet. When I need to get away, when I reach the apple tree, I fall around my feet, around my feet, around my feet. Well, the cards have all been dealt, and I'm one of the jokers casting spells. I know sometimes I give you hell, but I only wish you well.
Very nice. That was Ana Egge with Apple Tree from her 2004 release, Out Past the Lights, which we are revisiting today on the Back Catalog Listening Party. And listening to that again, I'd just the chorus, that line, when I want to get away, I travel in my sleep. I was just thinking this is so appropriate for right now. And, that's what we can do right now, right? We travel in our minds. And there was a lot of travel kind of reflected in the making of this record and the writing of these songs. Is that what you were thinking about when you wrote this, or what inspired this song?
Well, I was in a new city. You know, I had just decided to move to New York, and I didn't really plan on it. I thought I would come and work with this manager briefly and then leave, but I didn't leave, and I was surprised by that myself. And it was, it was a bit overwhelming. That picture was on the end of my block in Brooklyn, where I moved, Crown Heights. I had my old friend who I grew up with on a commune in New Mexico, and her roommate from college were my roommates. But it was, it was kind of like on the edge of it was kind of a rough neighborhood, and on the edge of a really rough neighborhood, and I was inexperienced in city living. I had gone to cities on tour, but that's always such a very different thing. You go, you play, leave, you always know where you're going, what's happening. And I remember just feeling really intimidated when I got there the first day and moved into my room, and just the noise outside and the sirens, and I laid down on the bed, and I was like, well, I'll just try to relax. And I just felt so much fear, like, just well up in me. Like, what am I doing? And it just got worse and worse, and then it just went away. And it was kind of like, oh, well, that was not so bad. And then I just fell in love with Brooklyn so much. And it took me a while to find my people, but musically. But Jason was a really great kind of door to a lot of really cool people. Yeah, and Apple Tree, my room was tiny. I mean, it was like 6 feet by 12 feet. My head hit one side of the wall, and my feet hit the other side of the wall. No joke. And I had a window on a brick wall that was also like 10 feet across. There was another wall. It was that stereotypical welcome to New York kid kind of vibe. And I knew this guy who I was, I still am, but very into like spiritual, all things seeking. And I was having this conversation with someone I knew from Texas about trying to meet each other in a dream. And if we decided on a place, if we could meet there. And so I suggested an apple tree.
Cool.
And it didn't work. I had many crazy dreams in relation to apple trees after that. But that was the beginning of that idea for the traveling in the chorus. And it took a fan at a show, as it often does, to say, "Oh, so your first song that you wrote in New York is about the Big Apple." Oh. Apple tree. It's like, you are smarter than me. That was not my intention.
Well, something that struck me in the tune was, just the country vibes going on. Listening to all the other songs on the record. I mean, there's a lot of different styles going on in lots of different genres and things like that. But this one definitely has some great country flavor with the pedal steel and stuff. Is there some country in your roots?
But yeah, well, that was my first love was country blues, Mississippi John Hurt and Big Bill Lindsey, and also simultaneously like the Stanley Brothers and Norman Blake and Tony Rice, and the Garcia Grisman record, mandolin. I really loved playing mandolin when I was young. So all that bluegrass, folk, string band stuff is really formative for me.
Who's on that pedal steel?
That's Tim Bovacanti.
Okay, that sounded great.
Really good. Yeah.
I'm just a sucker for pedal steel.
Yeah, me too.
Anytime there's a pedal steel on a song on the show, I get excited. And, it's one of my favorite instruments.
Me too. Speaking of different instruments, you said you play mandolin, and most folks who've seen you play live have seen you play guitar. But on the cover of this record, you have a little baby banjo on the cover.
I was wondering if that's what we were seeing there. Here, let me get that up here.
I couldn't see enough of the pegs to know exactly what kind of instrument, how it was stringed. I
Looked
couldn't
like
tell.
there was like maybe 8 strings on it or something. Is it like a banjolele or something like that?
It's
Or
it's like a
banjolin?
banjolin. Yeah.
That's what I was
Ah.
thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah,
banjolin.
and it was the photo of me foreground was taken in Turkey, and I bought that instrument in Turkey while
Really?
traveling there for $50. And the bottom of it looks like a pan, like a pot, like no joke. It's like ridged like it should be on a stovetop, and then it has a plastic head like a banjo. And then it has 4 double strings. Yeah, and that's
Oh,
where
cool.
the picture was taken. I was traveling with a little travel guitar, a little Martin that I borrowed from somebody, and I sang a song in that amphitheater. Yeah,
Wow.
this is Ephesus.
In this amphitheater here? That we're
Yeah, I
looking at?
sang Edelweiss, and then a bunch of Japanese tourists clapped afterwards. I was like, "You're too kind."
Epic.
It really works. I mean, the acoustics are amazing, and they're big shock.
Wow.
That's
wow.
so cool.
And because I was thinking what a solid, with 2 banjo players here, I was thinking what a solid marketing choice it was to have a banjo on the cover of a record.
Yeah.
Bold move.
Yeah, we accept all styles of banjos. Banjolins,
Exactly.
banjoleles.
Whatever.
Banjo
Banjo
bass.
ukes. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. The whole thing. And so does this instrument that's on the cover, does it make an appearance on the record?
No, just
Okay.
on the record.
Gotcha. Sounds good. The next song we have queued up to listen to is Straight to My Head. And is there anything you want to say before we dive into it?
I mean, no. This is about passion. I guess I fell for someone. It didn't work out, but I got the song out of it.
All right. It was worth it then.
It's always a win then, yeah.
Yeah, right. All right. Well, this is Straight to My Head from Ana Egge on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
On the fields, bread, sticky sweet, bread, the wine you make goes straight to my head.
Oh yeah, Anna Egge here on the Back Catalog Listening Party with Straight to My Head from her 2004 release Out Past the Lights, and yeah, it's a far cry from Stanley Brothers and Mississippi John Hurt, but I
Yeah,
dig it. I
rocking.
love. Oh, I love the keyboards on that. Sound really good, and the
Horns.
horns. Yeah, are those? Tell us a little bit about that, about what went into the recording of that song.
That's on trumpet Shane Ensley, who is in a band called Kneebody. He's so great. And Chris Brown's playing the keys. Yeah, that song. I mean, I think the idea about the wine, the making wine, the grapes. It was the metaphor of transformation, and becoming something that changes your your vibe, your vibration, just like love does, and how you when you're with someone and it's that moment, you feel like you're lost in each other. You disappear in front of each other's eyes because because you come one, or you're just so of that feeling. And so that was kind of where I was going with the lyrics, and I wanted the music to be representative of that too, and how the trumpets keep lifting you up, and there's some echo on the trumpets a couple times. It just kind of takes you into another realm, sort of, that song. I love it so much.
Yeah, it has like a dreamy or trance-like vibe, which is kind of how you feel when you're in love. You're walking
Yeah.
around in a fog. Yeah.
Yeah, and the chorus evolves. Like, it's never the same. It's never the same thing. Like, it adds something on each time.
Which is not always the case. Like usually
Yeah.
the idea is a hook; it always repeats. I think that's super cool. And I'm curious just about your, like how you approach like the layering of these instruments, pedal steel on the last one and horns on this one. I mean, do you have a vision in your head, as you're writing it, or is it one of those things where it's like, well, I got these group of musicians to choose from, and I'm going to pick this instrument and that? How are you making those artistic decisions for each song?
I really, I feel like just interacting with the song as it is, and kind of wondering what would work with it once I record it, and then I can interact with it as a thing separate from myself. Yeah, a little bit visually, sort of like where's their space and what's the space for. But yeah, that song felt very of an element which would be potentially air, and
So the horns are like
floaty things. Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. It sounds very poetic, but it also, it was also like horns. Oh, we know this great guy Shane. Let's see what he does. And then him being who he is, he brought that. So I didn't tell him what to play. He interpreted, what went through his mind. So
Wonderful. Well, one of our local Twin Cities bands, the Belfast Cowboys, is yes, and have a 9-piece band with horns. So they know about horns, and they say they love it. So yeah, so it got the stamp of approval from them. So yeah, and if you like it out there, and if you have questions for Anna, feel free to throw them in the comments. We'll get to as many of them as we can. And if you like what you're hearing, this CD is available. There are still some CD copies floating out there on Amazon, we think, so you can check it out there. But it's also on all the digital platforms. But all of her music is available from her website, and she has a pretty wide catalog. In fact, I was looking back at my CD copies of your albums, Anna, and I realized the first album I got of yours was Mile Marker in 1999. I saw you in a little coffee house in Louisville, Kentucky. I was on like a fall break from college, and I was visiting a friend there, and I happened to see you there. And I don't even remember the name of the club, but I bought the CD and you signed it. So
that is so wild, because
Awesome.
out of nowhere I thought of that trip today.
Oh,
I
really?
thought-
You remember that trip?
Yeah, because I was walking around on that trip in downtown, and there was an old blues guitar player playing solo. I think it was actually the bar where I was to play later that night, and we went there for sound check. And he was playing, so I was like, oh, well, don't have to do sound check because he's playing. We can't get in the way. That's so
Oh,
great.
that's great. That's
Wow.
wonderful.
Very cool.
I don't know
So
why.
yeah, that's so funny. And but it's been great to follow your music because as sort of this album is very emblematic of it's stylistically it's not like even though if someone sees you perform solo live you're gonna hear a great song sung with guitar and maybe a couple backup musicians but each album has such a different feel and this album in particular has a nice eclectic vibe to it. Are there any styles of music that you feel like you are yearning to dip into, and maybe especially during this time of quarantine where you can experiment with things?
Huh. Well, I am in the midst of making a record that I've written all during the quarantine. 12 songs that are. It's really exciting. But we're
That's
not going to
awesome.
talk about new music. But it is going to be
You can
really
talk
new
about
for
it.
me.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's wonderful.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And
It's all, yeah, I feel like every record is really. I'm not very good at sticking straight to a genre, as you know, if you have been following my music, and just this record. To me, each record is emblematic of the group that I'm doing the record with, the musicians that are collaborating with me. And I, it's that moment and what they're bringing. And not me telling them, to color in the lines or whatever. Yeah.
that's great. Well, and clearly you assembled for this record a pretty stellar group of musicians. So, yeah, sounding really great. And so we are going to hear another tune that you picked out from this record, Closer to the Motor. Is there anything you want to say about this?
I don't know. Should I talk about him before or after?
That's up to you.
What's more helpful, do you think?
I think we could listen, and then you might think of new things anyway that you want to say about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can just listen.
After everybody takes a listen, they can make their own, jump to their own conclusions.
If you guys have
and then-
questions or
Yeah.
about the song as you can throw in the comments.
All right. Let's give it a listen. This is Ana Egge, Closer to the Motor on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Closer to the motor, closer to the heart, closer to the sun of all desire, closer to the motor. The way it turns me over, relax and hold on tight. We could be rolling all night. How hot it gets inside. We
right, rocking out here with Anna Egge, Closer to the Motor from her 2004 album Out Past the Lights, which was where that song is where the title comes from. I heard
Yeah, I
in the
heard that.
song. And I love, that's just more like, feels like straight up kind of rock and roll. Love the guitars and and the time changes, shifts in it too. Really, really fun.
Yeah, some great slide work. Who was playing that?
That was Tony Shear.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's one of the living greats. Mostly known for his bass work with Bill Frisell and well, tons of Sex Mob and tons of different bands. But after this recording, he was in my regular band here in New York with Jason and Tony
That's so cool.
and Anton Fear for about 5 years. And
No way.
he's such a gem of a person, and his talent is just beyond. I mean, he is just incredible.
Well, we got for those just listening, we got a picture of him up
Tony.
now. He's rocking out. Well, it sounded great. I mean, it's
Yeah.
funny because, yeah, of course, he plays with Bill Frisell, These guys are, it's what top-notch musicians. And that actually kind of makes me think of a question that came to mind while we were listening, which was, with all these different styles, and you got horns, and you got these and that. Like, when you after you made this record and kind of toured, to support it and things like that, how did you approach that? Did you have to rearrange songs for a different type of ensemble? Did you bring everybody along? Was there a pedal steel and a horn section? Like, how did that work?
I started doing regional bands that would back me up. Like I would
Oh,
have
nice.
people in Texas that that would join me for those shows. Friends in California that would join me for shows out there, because I couldn't afford flights for everybody.
Yeah, right. So, hey, do you know a good pedal steel player, or do you know a good horn section, that kind of thing?
Yeah, and it was actually, I mean, there's so many amazing players everywhere, and it was really fun for me to get to play with different people, and also, really, I didn't really think about it, but it did make sense because they also had their friends and fans and family locally too. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, so it worked out. It was great. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. And Ms. Deb loves it. Close to the Motor, so cool. And then Chris says, what did that song remind me of? Old grunge days.
Nice.
And yeah, 2004. Yeah, there might have still been some flannel appearing.
Speaking
during
of
that
that, I couldn't help but notice a little different production on that one. Like it sounded was that intentional? Like it sounded a little more like like in a garage.
crunchy.
Or something.
Yeah.
There was but just the space in it sounded just a little more kind of in your face and less polished. It was like it had a little grunge to it. Was this recorded in a different location? Was that part of the aesthetic of the mixing
No.
and mixing of it?
No, and I might be giving a lot away right now, but the truth is, all of these songs started with me playing live and singing, and everything else was overdubbed on top.
Oh wow!
And without a click. And so but the grunge was, I said, put distortion on my voice from your guitar pedal.
Nice.
So that's what that is.
And it's also a testament then to the playing, the fact that it sounds so live, and also the fact, as you said, no click track, which is hard when you have a full band like that with a rhythm section and
everybody
everything.
Else is just like they're just
so
matching
out of
you.
control. I know. I love it so much.
There's a real energy in
Yeah.
that, though. That's
Yeah.
great.
That's probably all of them being like, I'm going to stay on it. I'm going to stay on it.
Like the bucking bronco in the bar or something. Yeah, this song is so wild because I have a good story about this song. And since we're here for that, I'll just unleash on y'all. So I was traveling without a guitar in Peru with my friend Anthony, who's a photographer. And we were on an overnight bus from, I don't think it was from Cusco, it was from a city further east that we had gone to. And then we were going south to take a boat to the island of Tequil, which is where these people live. And there's no roads there, and there's no there, at that time there were no businesses. This was a long time ago, but if you wanted to stay, you had to arrange with a family, to do a homestay, and that included breakfast. And so we arranged that, and we stayed with the family there. And all of the men wore these caps that went over like this, like the wee willy winky caps.
Yeah. For those who are just listening, we're showing a picture now. We'll put it in the show notes. Really interesting picture of some a couple gentlemen with these caps and some creating them. It looks like they're making them as well.
Yeah, that was their main industry that they sold. These beautiful woven hats and belts and dresses.
Gorgeous
and
colors.
the women wore these skirts that were multi-layered. You see the colors, and they represented many things, like whether or not they were married, how many children they had. There were all these things
wow.
that yeah. And it was just such a magical time. But my friend Anthony and I were on an overnight bus to go to the boat to get there. And on the overnight bus that was packed full, pulled over in the middle of the night, and there was another packed full bus that had broken down on the road, which of course we took on all of those people onto our bus. And so we all had people on our laps, and in the, just very, we're not going to leave them on the side of the road. And so we're just like,
Nice.
And we were sitting right up on the motor, the motor, closer to the motor of this bus. And all these people were just sitting on it.
Wow.
Wow.
And I love him so much. And he, even more than me, can just come up with raunchy double entendres nonstop about anything. And so it was just, and not many, and that's how we basically passed the time. The night became very long, and most people couldn't understand our English, so we were just making jokes and just like, oh my gosh, this is just so wild. And so then we get to the boat the next day and go out to Keel Island. And I start to hear this melody in my head, and I start thinking about what we just did. And then, of course, it becomes really about who I couldn't stop thinking about, this woman who I was falling in love with, who now I'm married to. And so then it just became this kind of passionate longing, song. But the gateway was this.
Awesome. Well, that's where it started.
Yeah.
Joe
so that was
says
burning
a pretty hot
oil and
lyric.
Yeah.
Actually, Ruth Brown could have covered that one. That would be interesting to hear, like a heavy blues version of that, because the blues. And so it makes sense too that you were a big Mississippi John Hurt fan, because blues is full of those double entendres,
And it's so ironic. It's like the most guitar rock song by far that I've ever written, but I didn't have a guitar. I didn't have an instrument. It was
Just how it goes.
just how it came out. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's such a great story. And it's funny. You never know what a song will turn into or where it comes from. It's such an interesting process. And so when you were traveling, you said you didn't have a guitar. When you if you're traveling not touring, do you make it a point? Do you try and bring an instrument when you can, or do you prefer to, like, this is my break, I'm not bringing my instruments?
No, usually I want to bring an instrument, but this was like a trek. We were backpacking and going to Machu Picchu and going on a boat up the Amazon, and throwing caution to the wind entirely. And I want to say that Anthony, he wrote that song with me.
Nice. Nice. Well, that's great.
Because
That's
so many of our jokes.
All your jokes kind of like are
He's
probably
like,
embedded
closer to
in
the
all
hum, honey. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm writing that in.
So this is my other question. When you were writing this, I know you were just passing the time and making jokes with your friend in this cramped bus to pass the time and make it bearable. But did you know at that time, you're like, oh yeah, this is gold. This is going to be a song. Or were you just like, oh, this is like a throwaway kind of tune?
Well, the next day, on the island, I did start to, like I said, I heard a melody, and then those words that we'd been joking about started to fit in there, and I was like, wait a second, I think this might be something good.
I love
Yeah.
that. I
Very
love
cool.
that. That's great. We're going to squeeze in one, maybe two tunes. We'll see how it goes. But right now, we have another song that you picked from this record to feature, Birds, which I have to say, Birds made it on the cover of your album as well. And I find Birds super evocative. I've probably written a gazillion songs where birds are featured. Are birds common for you as well, or is that just how this song ended up being?
Um, I think it was again this kind of metaphor of lifting and of kind of elevated spiritual kind of connection, I guess. Yeah. I don't know if do I even say the word birds? I think I just call it birds. I can't even remember now. But
Well, I guess we'll have to listen and find out.
yeah, let's listen.
Awesome. All right. This is Ana Egge, Birds, on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
When the bell breaks and the sun sings, all the birds rise up to me from the fields and the trees. All the birds rise up. I will never be just what you wish. In time you see, it's your wish, not mine. I will never be just what you wish. In time you see, it's your wish, not mine. I will never be just what you wish. In time you see, it's your wish, not mine. I will never be just what you wish. In time you see, it's your wish, not mine. The magic hour of the day begins. When the bell breaks and the sun sings, all the birds rise up to me.
Yes, that was Anna
Nice.
Egge with Birds. And yes, you made a knowing nod. It's true. You did mention birds specifically in that song. And I love how it feels like a meditation.
Yeah.
But then the drums kick in and it just, oh, it feels so good. And definitely lifted me up. And actually, Alan from Texas said this pairs well with the Velvet Hammer. Very smooth. I need this after this particular week. I'm ready to melt.
Oh,
And yes, our thoughts go out to all of you in Texas today. Belfast Cowboys say beautiful, Maria gorgeous, and
oh,
yeah,
thank
Yeah,
you.
that was
I
great.
love
Great
that
tune.
song. And yeah, I was actually thinking about it just today. I saw that there was this article from I think it was the Audubon Society about Toni Morrison and the
Mm.
Whisper and Bird Images. And one thing I was thinking as I was listening to this and seeing the cover of your album with the city landscape behind you is that birds are like one of the few animals that are like everywhere. Like
Mm.
cities, country, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
in some cities they're very overpopulated, so it's just interesting that birds seem to be the one thing that I feel like ties us all together. I don't know.
And I can't help but think about like the idea of clearly before language we had noises and sounds, but I imagine birds. I mean, they're dinosaurs, right? Like, I mean that those songs. I mean,
Mm.
they go so
Ancient.
they're ancient. Yeah, absolutely. And I there's no I don't think it's I think that, for me at least that like I know why I'm attracted to them. I think it's probably something that's in our DNA. I mean, it's probably underlies our language somehow. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and they connect our worlds sort of.
Yeah, north south. I mean, they literally travel between us, and I
Yeah.
think of like homing pigeons or owls
Hmm.
for Harry
Yeah.
Potter. But yeah,
Yeah, and the
um,
realms of heaven and earth sort of.
right, sort of spiritual animals for sure.
And the
Yeah.
older I get, the more I enjoy watching them. So, like, I used to laugh at that. I had some like elderly relatives that would be like, "We're just gonna go watch the birds," and I'm like, "Ah, yeah, whatever, Grandpa." But now it's like my wife and I will be like, "Oh, did you see that yellow bird out there? Come on, we'll gather around the back window." I mean, there's something
Yeah.
about it. It just draws you in.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
And I like the idea of just the nursery rhyme of the bough breaks,
Hmm.
and you fall, but you fall asleep and you dream again. There's the dreaming thing, and you rise up, um, and the writing took me to this idea of freedom, this idea of true freedom, in that you know letting go of what other people think of you, but also kind of forgiving them that in that bridge where it's like, I'll never be just what you wish, but in time you'll see it's your wish, not mine, about what you want me to be. It's
Yeah.
not, and that's okay, you know.
Yeah. And in fact, Alan said birds are clear indicators of change too, and they're the most mobile
Mm-hmm.
of creatures. And I think
Mm.
think that really taps into what you're talking about. Um, this has been so much fun to dive into these songs, and
Yeah.
it's been so great. And I want to make sure for folks out there who are listening who are digging the music, again, you can get this album. Again, if you find a copy on Amazon or whatever, snag it up because there aren't many copies left floating out there or flying out there. And so you want to nab it while you can. But it is available on the digitals, and you can check out all of Anna's music on her website. And a little birdie told me that there's going to be a new single coming March 19th, and as you mentioned, a full length record coming a little bit down the road. So how can folks find out about these things when they're ready to be released?
I guess since y'all are online now, you are savvy to that sort of thing. So my Facebook page and my Instagram
And your
page
website,
and
yeah.
Twitter and my website. My website is always a little bit slower, but yes, there's a lot of shows on there that are being rescheduled for the fall with Iris Dement. So don't be fooled. I'm not touring in March. for all the obvious reasons.
It's
But
hard to take those off, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
I can't even get in there. It's like
Oh.
the bots, like I don't.
Yeah.
it's
Well,
like, anyway.
but you do have a live stream coming up in March, on
I
March
do.
28th.
That's true.
Okay.
I have one show on the 28th with Steve James. It's going to be super fun.
So you all can access it from wherever you are tuned in today to the Back Catalog Listening Party. We'll make sure to share it on
Yeah,
our
we'll definitely.
socials as well.
Thank you.
And if folks want to check that out, they can do that because, and again, support Anna's music because she's not touring much right now. So, and we want to fund that next record. So make sure to buy her music and support her in any way you can. And I will just put in a plug. The single that she recently released is amazing. It has a beautiful video called This Time. And actually one of our past Back Catalog guests, Lucy Wainwright Roach, sings on it as well. So you'll definitely want to check it out. And we'll share a link to that as well.
And I'll say that the woman who did the video is from the Twin Cities. She lives in St. Paul, Ingrid Weiss.
Oh,
Yay!
yay.
That's right. Thank you for reminding us about that. That's
Another
great.
connection here.
Yeah,
To Twin Cities. That's
love
really
it.
cool.
And also I want to mention that folks who want to hear another song, some of our top level patrons will get to hear. We're going to hear one more song on our little after party, which we do once a month for our top level patrons. And if we want to thank all of you who support the show that way every week. And I want to thank Penny, Anna, Linda, Bevan, Connie, Vaughn, Alan, Chris, Alex, Becky, Galen, Peggy, Joe, Jim, Beverly, John, Fred, Tim, and Scott, and maybe you. And if you want to join and get
thank
invited
you.
to cool events like some of our after party conversations, you can do that. And
we have a pretty cool perk coming up for our Patreon
Yes,
patrons. I don't know if we've
we
even
do.
told them yet.
no, I don't think we have. So go for it. Well, we have, and actually, this is probably the last time I saw you, Anna, perform. Was it last year? You were at Folk Alliance in New Orleans, I think, and I saw you at one of your late night showcases there with a trombone player. I think was joining you for that show. I don't remember. Anyway,
I think so.
but this year's Folk Alliance International Conference, which is kind of the folk and roots conference, the South by Southwest for folk and roots musicians from around the world, it's happening online. And Tony and I are going to host a back catalog Folk Alliance party with performances from some of our favorite guests from the past year. So we have actually Lucy Wainwright Roach will be joining us, Tracy Grammer, Jonathan Brooke, Row Family Singers, Chris Koza, all kinds of folks. So
gonna be great.
and if you are a patron, you're going to get a special like private link to check it out. So VIP pass. So you won't need to go through the whole folk conference thing. You'll just get a direct YouTube link. So that's just one of many perks that you can get when you join the Patreon family. But mainly, we're just happy you're here with us every Friday because that's what it's all about. We started it, or Tony had the brilliant idea about a year ago to reconnect with our musician friends and all you music lovers out there, and it's been such a treat to do it.
I
every
absolutely
week.
couldn't have gotten through this year without all of you and folks like you, Anna. Thank you so much for spending this hour with us. I mean, just listening to music and hearing about your process and all of this, it fills me up and it keeps me going. And I just, so I can't say
Thank
enough
you.
about what this means to me personally. So.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you for inviting me, and it's been a total pleasure. I really enjoyed myself, and thanks for all your nice comments, everybody.
Yeah, and Alan says, wait, it's over already? Well, for Alan, for you, it's not, because you are one of our Patreon supporters. So you can join us for the after party on Zoom. And thank you all for tuning in. If you like the show, like it. And will help all the bots, help Anna's music be exposed to more people. And you can also share the link with your friends and family. And of course, if you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube page so you can know about
Got
future
some great,
events.
Great stuff coming up.
Next week, can we tell them what's happening next
Let's
week?
do it. Let's do it.
The Whale and Jennies are going to be joining us. All three of them, Billboard charting
all three of
folk
them. I did not know that.
folk stars. And honestly, during the quarantine, because they all live in different places, they have not really done, well, they've done no performances at all, and they have not done many online appearances together. So this is a really rare treat to have all three of them from Canada and Nashville and California. They'll all be joining us together. So that'll be fun. That will be next week. So
Yeah, and we hope to see all you back here next Friday. And thanks again, Anna. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
Patreon patrons, we'll see you at the after
in a
party.
few minutes.
And
All right.
everybody else, we'll see you next week on the Back Catalog Listening Party.